For this week's project, we're going to work on this interior architecture, which could be a theater set or a film or television set or real architecture in a real room. We're going to do this project in two parts. So the first part will use Vectorworks standard tools, the wall, door, window, and stair tools to quickly assemble this room. This is the digital equivalent to traditional media white models. It's something that you would do at the beginning of a design process where you want to be able to quickly put ideas together but not spend a whole lot of time on them as you're developing things for yourself or showing them to directors or other members of the team. So we will fairly quickly assemble this white model in part one, and then for part two, we will use that base room to flesh out more realistic details. So we will flesh out the staircase, we'll add molding, we'll create some plantation shutters for the windows. For next week's project, we will take it the next step and we will add textures and lighting, and then we will use the 3D model to generate 2D plans, a ground plan, a section, and some elevations. I should say at this point that for everyone, but particularly for the grad students, on this project and really on most of the remaining projects, it's fine with me if you want to change things up. So as long as you get the basic points of what we're doing, so as long as your room has stairs and doors and windows and textures, if you want to change the style or the color or rearrange the walls or rearrange the windows or doors or do something else that you think would fit your needs for portfolio reasons or whatever better, please feel free. If you want to run an idea by me before you do it, that's fine. So you're welcome to just recreate the room as is, or you're welcome to use the ideas in the project to generate your own project. So with that said, let's go back to the white model. As we work on the basic room, we'll be using tools which generate 2D, 3D hybrid objects, and we'll also be creating a couple of our own hybrid objects. The 2D components of these objects will be very helpful next week when we're generating the plans, because a lot of the work will already be done for us. In fact, if we take a look at this model in top plan view, you'll see that through the use of the hybrid objects, it's almost ready to go as a ground plan. The symbols are there. We would just need to add some annotations. While we're looking at this from the top plan, I just want to say a brief word about the walls. The Vectorworks wall tool is built for architecture and makes continuous walls, which is actually kind of a neat trick. If we were drafting this for theater, we would want the walls to look a little different. These walls are 6 inches thick and they are continuously joined. If this were a theater set, the walls would look more like this. They would be thinner. They would probably be 3 inches wide. And at the 3 points, the end of the wall here, the end of the wall here, and the end of the wall here, we would add 6-inch wide thickness pieces or reveals to make the walls appear to be 6 inches wide to the audience, when in fact they're really just standard flats. And they wouldn't be continuous. Each wall would be an individual construction. That being said, I don't want to get caught up in those details in this early model, so I just want to point that out, that we're drawing walls that are true architectural walls, but it would be very easy to change them to theater flats or theater walls when you did a final version of the model. So let's get started by opening a new file using our template. And the first thing we're going to do is create the base or the platform or the wagon, the floor, depending on whether this is a real room or a set or whatever. But I'm going to assume it's a wagon for theater. So it is 10 feet deep and 24 feet wide. So I'm going to create a rectangle that's 24 feet wide and 10 feet deep. I'm going to insert it by its center. and then I'm going to extrude it 8 inches. Now I'm going to turn this into a hybrid symbol. And I can do that one of two ways. I can just draw a rectangle, or I can use that to turn it into a symbol, or I can use the hybrid tool. The simplest way is to draw a rectangle, so I'm just gonna draw the same rectangle again. And I'm going to select both objects, the extruded object and the rectangle, and then modify, create symbol. I'm going to call this base. Okay, I'm going to put it in the scenery symbols folder. And there we have it. So in top plan view, it will look like this. In top view, it will look very similar. And in any of the other views, it will look like the extruded 8-inch platform that it is. Next, we're going to start drawing walls, and the walls start 2 feet back from the edge of the platform. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw in a guideline. I'm going to use the line tool to draw a line on the edge of the platform, and then I'm going to introduce a new tool. This is the Move by Points tool, and I'm going to use it in its first mode, which is the move mode. I'm going to click on the line that I just drew and drag up, and then I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to type in 24 or 2 feet, return, and it will move the object that I started on up the distance that I entered with the tab. So that's where we're going to start the walls. So next we're going to use the wall tool. So the wall tool has preferences that are set here with the preferences button. So I'm going to set the wall to be 6 inches thick. That's the only thing that we really need to change. We're going to leave everything else the same. Yes. Bert's Project 3. The wall tool has the same drawing modes that the double line polygon tool does. So it has a top or left control mode, a center control mode, a bottom or right control mode, and a custom control mode, which means that if you're in the left or top mode, if you are drawing on top, it draws its second line below. The reason this is not top and bottom the way it is with the double line tool is because it thinks of walls as having a left side and a right side, not a top side and a bottom side, if that makes sense. So just bear that in mind. So we're gonna use the wall tool in its first mode, the left control mode, and we're gonna start drawing here at our 2 foot mark that we've just established, and we're gonna go up to the corner, and then we're gonna start pulling over. I'm gonna tab, and this wall is 18 feet 6, 18 feet 6, return, and now I'm going to pull down, and here we want to go 3 feet, so tab 36, return. Then we're just going to come straight over to the wall, click, and then come down to our 2 foot mark and double click to end the wall. So there is our first wall. And so that this stands out as a wall, I'm going to, while it's still selected, change its color, its fill color to 40%. And now I can delete my original line. Next, I need to establish a line that's 6 feet 5 from here to here, because that's where the next wall is going to be. So oversensitive mouse. So I'm going to draw a line here. I'm going to leave it selected. I'm going to use the Move by Points tool and click there, pull to the right, tab, 6 feet 5, return. Then we will go back to the wall tool, and now I want to put it in the right control mode because I need the wall to be drawn on the right hand side of this line. So I'm going to start here, click, I'm going to pull down, tab 3 feet 6, return, and I'm going to pull to the right, tab 4 feet 5, return, and then I'm going to double click. And I had to do a little bit of a fancy move there at the end. I had to move the mouse back to the end of the wall and double click. So if you end up you'll see that it gets a little weird here. So you have to put in order to do the double click, you have to get back to this point. Anyway, so we're going to go back, and you'll notice that when I select this, even though it's joined together, it only selects the one wall because it really is two walls. It thinks of it as sort of two things that are joined together, but it still thinks of it as two separate things. So I'm going to select both of these walls and change the color to 40%. And you'll notice it's not connected here. Now, as I said a few minutes ago, for theater drawings, that actually would be a good thing. But for an architectural drawing, we would want them to connect. And because all the rest of them are connected, we want these to connect. So we're going to use the wall join tool. We're going to use it in the T mode. And it's a simple matter of clicking on one wall and then clicking on the other wall. Now, interestingly enough, this doesn't work when you do it in that order. But if you do it in this order, it works. I have no idea what that's about, but that's the way it works anyway. So that completes the walls, which was pretty fast, right? So now, so that we can, let's go ahead and go to front view, and you'll see that there are some walls. We're going to go back to top plan, and so that we can have a better look at what we're doing, I'm going to go ahead at this point and put in our RenderWorks camera. So I'm going to go to the visualization palette, choose RenderWorks camera. I'm going to find the center, the bottom center, so that I'm in the actual center. I'm going to come out somewhere along in here and just drag straight up. Then I'm going to activate the camera view, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And then I will use the fine-tune camera view to move the camera closer because I pushed it back a little far. And now the perspective is starting to distort, so I'm going to adjust the focal length and then move the camera back. So you can play with that until you get a perspective that looks good to you. Now I'm going to put this in OpenGL, so now I can see. For me, at least in perspective, it's better. I can see what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, save view as front perspective. Okay. Then I'm going to go back to top plan. The nice thing about the saved view is, unless I want to use it for some effects, which we haven't talked about yet, I can actually get rid of the camera now. Just hit delete. It's not tied to the perspective view, so that view will go back to the perspective we set with the camera, even though the camera is no longer there. I find the camera gets in the way when I'm modeling. So those are the walls. Next we will work on the staircase. For the stair tool, we're going to go back to the building shell tool palette and find the simple stair tool. We'll just select that, we'll click once. Then you'll see that it has the shadow of a staircase. I'm not gonna insert it where it actually goes. I need to do some work to it first, so I'm gonna insert it out here. So this is a 2-click operation. You click once to place the stairs, and then you can rotate the stairs and click again. I'm just gonna leave them straight. And when you click again, I'm gonna hit X to get out of that. You will, it will insert a standard staircase. And then in Object Info, you can change the parameters for your particular staircase. So we want ours to be a masonry staircase, and I'll explain why once we build it. We want our width to be 3 feet 4, 3 feet 4. Then I'm going to hit tab. The floor to floor height is 6 feet. Tab. The max riser is 8 inches. The tread depth we can leave. We can leave the tread height. The next thing we need to change is we need to come down and change the configuration from straight stairs, which is, as the name would imply, stairs that just go straight up, to landing left. And our landing tread is going to be number 3. And that should do it. So if you hit return, you'll see that this is the staircase. Now, if I rotate this to the left now, modify, rotate left, you'll see that it's the staircase that goes in there. To talk about the masonry and the other style questions, I'm going to go to an isometric view so you can see that masonry gives you just solid stairs as if they were solid concrete, hence masonry. Standard gives you sort of solid stairs, but that don't go all the way to the ground. These would be exterior concrete stairs, probably. Indented should angle the stairs back a little bit, but it doesn't seem to do that, so I'm not sure what's up with that. But open riser gives you sort of wooden stairs, essentially. Even though ours are eventually going to be wood stairs, they're not this kind of wood stairs, so we're going to go ahead and do masonry. Now, back to the top. I guess the cat doesn't like these stairs. You'll notice that if we put the stairs here, there's a gap here. So we need actually another landing on the top of the stairs. The simple stair tool doesn't allow you to do multiple landings. There's a regular stair tool or a non-simple stair tool in the architect version of Vectorworks that will let you do multiple landings. You actually would have access to that because you have a designer, but you'd have to switch workspaces. So we're just going to make a landing. We're going to draw a rectangle that's 3 feet square, 36. I'm going to duplicate that, Command or Windows D, and then I'm going to extrude that 5 feet 4, and then put the 2D rectangle on top of it and select them both and create a symbol. And we're going to call that top landing. Okay. Yeah, I had already created one earlier, so yes, I'm going to say yes. And we're going to put it in the scenery symbols folder. So now we can put that landing right here. Then we're going to switch to front view and go to wireframe, and you'll see that the landing is sitting in the platform, not on the platform. So I'm just going to grab it by its bottom and hold down shift so I move straight up until it clicks to the top of the platform. While I'm here, I might as well take the stairs and put them on the top of the platform too. Now, you'll notice that this is a weird landing. This is a theater landing. A normal landing would actually go up another step, but because once somebody gets up the stairs, we can't really see what they're doing, so we don't need to go up any further. So I've created a landing that's the same height as the top step. Now I can take the staircase and butt it up against the landing, and it goes right there. Now this, you're going to say, but it doesn't fit, and I'm going to say you're right. As a matter of fact, I need to select these walls now and send them to the front. In order to make the final version of the staircase in part 2 work out right with all of the molding and the way the handrails butt into the walls and things, the stairs have to actually come past the edge of the wall here and go past the edge of the wall there. You'll understand why that's true when we get to the second part, but that's the way the stairs need to work. And I should say now that obviously I've already built this once. That's how I know these things. If you were designing this, you would find that out as you're working. When you got to part 2, you'd go, oh, I need to make the staircase bigger because of the way that it intersects with the walls. So all of the numbers and things I'm giving you on this project are things that if this was a real design, I would be discovering as I went along. I just happen to know the numbers because obviously I've already built this once. So that is the staircase. Next, we will insert the doors and windows. But before we insert the doors and windows, we need to make an adjustment to the walls. I realized when I looked at the stairs in isometric that there was an issue with the walls. So to show you what that issue is, we're going to go to front view and wireframe, and we're going to see that this in the same way that when we originally extruded the landing, it was inside the platform rather than on top of the platform. All of the walls are currently inside the platform rather than on the platform, so we need to move all the walls up 8 inches. You might remember that I said in an earlier video that whenever you're creating a floor object, you should extrude it down. That probably would have helped in some ways if we did that, but this floor is not actually the floor. It's a platform that sits on top of the floor, so we could have started with the top of it at 0 by extruding it down and then just move the whole thing up at the end when we were done, which might have been useful, but that would make the any automatic hybrids that we did have to recalculate themselves. So it's not really a big deal just to move the walls. So we're just going to grab all of the walls. Hold down Shift. And make sure that I have 7 walls. And then the bottom offset, we're just going to change to 8 inches. So now if we go back to the to the front, you'll see that the walls are now on top of the platform rather than end of the platform. And the other thing is we left the walls at their default height, and they really need to be 12 feet 6. So here at the height, I'm just going to change them to 12 feet 6. So they really should look like that. I'll be curious to see what that did to our front perspective view. Oh, okay, great. So it's still, I might want to adjust this a little bit later, but for right now we can still see what's going on. So back to top plan, and now we're going to insert the doors. So we'll start by selecting the door tool, click once, that activates the door. We're going to put the front door in first, so if I drag this door over the wall will turn red, indicating that you can insert the door into that wall. It's a 2-click operation. The first click locates the door in the wall, so I want to put it in the center, so I'm going to click when I get the midpoint Q. And then you have the ability by moving the mouse around to alter the way the door swings, and I want it to swing in this direction, so on stage and up. And then once you have that in the direction you want, you click again, and the wall and the door inserts itself into the wall. I'm going to hit X to get back to the selection tool. Now, so let's look at that. So if we go to isometric, you can see there we have a door. It's a pretty simple door. So in order, I'm going to change that, we're going to go back to top plan. And you can do this in any view, but I want you to see some changes that happen in top plan. We're going to look at object info, and we have all sorts of parameters that we can play with. We also have a better arrangement. If we go to settings, it will give us, it thinks for a minute, it will give us the same parameters that are in object info, but in a more organized fashion. So we're going to start with general. This is the size of our door. So because this is the front door, we're going to leave the default 3 feet wide and 6 feet 8 tall, but you can type in any size you want here. The leaf size or the unit opening, this refers to what this number means. Are you talking about the size of the door itself, which is what the leaf is? Or are you talking about the size of the hole in the wall? It's you can specify. I'm just going to leave the default. You can change the shape of the top of the door. You'll see there's a preview over here. You can give it a round shape or a gabled shape, or there's even a Gothic arch. We just want a plain old square door. And then here in configuration, you can tell it what kind of door. So this is the simple swing is a normal door. You can put in a barn door. You can make it be a bifold bipart, which is a closet door. You can put in also, an overhead door, which is sort of a commercial garage door. But we want just a simple swing. So that takes care of general. The next tab is 2D visualization, and the thing that we want here is I would like to see the dashed line here. Some people don't want to see anything. This is a style preference, but I like to see the dashed line. So I want to, and that's the wall line. I want to tell it I want to see the wall lines, and I'm going to set attributes by line style, and I want the wall lines to be dashed. So that's and it, for some reason that never shows up in the preview. I'm not sure why you would think that's why that's there, but at any rate, so you can set all sorts of attributes here to customize the way you want the 2D symbol to look. But the only thing I'm going to change is making the wall lines dashed. 3D visualization, there are things you can change there too. The one that you should be aware of is that it will allow you to draw the door open in 3D, if that would be helpful. I usually draw them closed, but if you would like for it to be open, you can certainly do that. The next thing is the leaf. The leaf is the door itself. A door is made up of several parts. There's the door jamb, there's the threshold, there are the hinges, there's the handle, and then there's the actual door, and technically that's the leaf. So right now we have a solid leaf. What we want is a panel leaf, and we want, I always do this backwards, let's see if I get this right. We want 3 vertical panels, yay, and two horizontal panels, because I want a traditional 6-panel door. I'd like the mid style, which is this part and this part, to be 4 inches to match the outside styles. I'd like the bottom rail to be 8 inches. That's more of a standard. And then I want to, right now it's got 6 equal panels. I'd like to set the top panel height to be 10 inches. So this looks more like the standard 6-panel doors that we're all used to seeing. That takes care of the other thing is glazing and top panels. This because this is the front door, what that means is glazing is glass, so I'd like the top 2 panels, rather than being solid wood, to be glass because it's a front door. Next we can leave so lights would be sort of basically windows on the side of the door. Some of you may have seen houses that have that. We don't want that. The threshold is if it's a real entry door in a real house, it probably has a threshold at the bottom which keeps the water out. Because this is a stage door, we're not going to put a threshold on it, but that's what the threshold is. You can put louvers in. You can put a transom, which is basically a window over the door. That's what a transom is. The next thing we're actually going to change is trim, and yes, I would like to include trim, and I'm just going to leave the default to 4 inches, but I will add trim around the inside of the door. We want to include hardware, and there's a variety of hardware here you can include. I want a residential entry set. I'm going to go with the lever. A residential passage set would be like a bedroom knob. So the entry set is the front door, back door, exterior doors, and the passage sets are interior doors, bedroom doors, bathroom doors, those sorts of things. The last thing we need to change is the jamb. You'll notice here that the door jamb is not the same width as the wall. So I'm going to tell it to use wall depth for the jamb. And I think if I click OK now, it will make all of those changes. So it's given me the dashed line. It's increased the jamb to be the width of the wall. And if I go to the isometric view, it has now changed the plain door to a 6-panel door, and it's put glass in the top 2 panels. So there are all sorts of different options that you can use with the door tool. So we've inserted that door. So next we're going to insert this closet door. I'm going to go back to the door tool, and I'm going to put it in the center of the wall here, and I want it to swing in that direction. And yes, I do realize these doors will hit each other if you're trying to use them both at the same time. So we're going to go to the, well, actually, let's first look and see what, so it's just inserted the standard slab door, as you would expect. So we're going to go to settings and do the same thing again. And this time, this is a closet door, so I only want this to be 24 inches wide as opposed to 3 feet wide. So we're going to change that. And you'll notice this doesn't update live until you hit OK. But we're going to change that to 24. We're going to leave everything else the same. 2D visualization, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to tell it to draw the wall lines, and the line style of the wall lines is going to be a dotted line or dashed line. The jamb should use the wall depth. The leaf is going to be the same panel door again, so the 4, the bottom rail is 8. There are 3 vertical panels. There are 2 horizontal panels. This is going to be 4. We're going to set the top at 10, and this time we are not going to put glass in the top because closet. What's next? Trim. Yes, we would like to include trim. And finally, hardware. We want to include hardware, and we want this to be a passage set. I'm just going to do a plain old doorknob. By the way, I missed this before. This passage set are regular interior doorknobs. Privacy sets are they have locks on them. So the passage set might be a closet door, and the privacy set might be a bedroom door. But at any rate, if we click OK, you will see it calculate for a second, and it's made those changes. So here we have the door with the doorknob and the panels. I'm going to go back to top, and the last door is actually a doorway that's on the other side. So we're going to go back to the door tool one more time. We're going to insert the door here in the center again. Click, and it doesn't matter which way the door swings because there's no actual door, or there won't be once we make the changes. So I'm going to click again. I'm going to go back, I'm going to hit X to get back to the selection tool, and then go to settings. And this time I want, it's going to be a 3-foot door again, but I want it to have a round top. This is going to be a cased opening, which means that it's just the opening that's framed out with wood. There is no leaf. There's no door in this door. It's just a hole that has been framed out. You can actually do just a regular opening, which has no, it's just the hole with no frame around it. But what we want is actually the cased opening so that there's a frame around the hole. So then the only other thing we need to change is to tell it to add trim. Because there's, and to tell the door jamb to use wall depth. So door jamb should use wall depth, and trim, yes, we'd like interior trim. So if we click OK, oh, and I didn't do the line. I knew I forgot something. I was going too fast. So back to settings, 2D visualization, draw wall line, line style, wall line, dashed. Okay. Now, to be perfectly honest, if I was really doing this as a quick white model just for myself or to show somebody, I wouldn't spend the time to correct all of these things. But because I know I'm going to use this later to generate plans, I'm taking some extra time now to make sure that things look like I want them to look. But you could totally speed past all of the fixing the lines and things. So that should be the 3 doors. So our final step will be to install the windows. To install the windows, we're going to go back to top plan view. We're going to select the window tool, and this works much the same way that the door tool does. We're going to hover over a wall, and I want to insert this window in the center of this space. So in order to do that, I'm going to hover here to activate that point, and then I'm going to hover here to activate that point, and then that will then give me a midpoint. And then if I pull up, that will, and I can double click there. So that will insert the window using the smart points in the center of that space. So now, just as with the door, I can enter information in object info, or I can click on settings and get the same sort of display that we had for doors. So general, we want a rectangular window with a square top. It's going to be a double hung window. Which means that it has a top and a bottom that move up and down. We're going to leave the stock size 2 feet 6. No, we're not either. It's going to be, this is the smaller window, so we want this to be 22 feet by 3 feet. So 24 by 36. The elevation and wall, which is how high the window is in the wall, is going to be 8 feet. And you can either set that at the top of the window or at the sill of the window. The default is the head of the window. So we're going to leave that at 8 feet. 2D visualization. For a window of this type, there are no dashed lines to draw because the wall itself is still there, so I'm not really going to change anything. For the jamb and the sash, the jamb is the frame around the window, so we want to once again use the wall depth for the jamb. The sash is sort of the actual window part of the window. We're going to leave that in its default as well. You can play around with the different options and see what those do. Next on our list, we're going to leave the sill alone. We're not going to do any louvers. We're not going to do a transom. For the trim, we would like to include trim around the window. And I want to include the trim under the stool, which just means you can stop the trim at the door, at the window sill, or you can include the trim all the way around. And I just want to include trim all the way around for no particular reason. It's available both ways in houses all over the country. The muntins are the divisions between the panes of glass. So for the top sash, we want colonial, and we want one vertical bar and one horizontal bar. And I just typed 2. 1 horizontal bar, and I would like these to be 1 inch thick each. Then for the bottom sash, we're going to repeat the same thing. There are a couple of different options for this. There's a prairie, there's a sunburst. You can play around with those. I'm just going to leave mine as a standard colonial window. I could add shutters if I wanted to. So that is the window. If I click OK, it's adjusted the size, as you can see. If I go to front, there we have it, window and wall. And so then the final thing is to put the other window in. So back to top, back to our window tool, and I want to insert this at the center point here between this wall and this wall. And because there are actual walls there, it will tell me that this is the center. So I'm going to hover over that, and actually I don't even have to move up to the center. If I just click right here twice, the window will insert itself. Now back to settings. This window is going to be 2 feet 6 by 4. It is we're going to use the default It's going to be a double hung window. The jamb and the sash, we want to use the wall depth for the jamb. We're going to leave the sash. Trim, yes. Under the stool. The muttons in this case are 2 by 2. And we're going to do a 1 inch. And then we want the bottom to match. That should do it. Click OK. It's going to make those changes. Where's the... Oh, I was going to say where's the trim on this door, but it's because for some reason the staircase is on top of the stack. Not sure how that happened because we drew the window later, but if I click on the window and modify send to front, it will send that to the front. So let's look at this and see front perspective. That should be the entire room for this step in the project. Now you'll notice that I said that this was basically the equivalent of a white model, and in the picture I showed you at the very beginning, I actually used a rendering style called white model, which we're going to look at in a second. Before I do that, I want to adjust my view here, because once I made the walls taller after I realized my mistake, it's not centered the way that I'd like for it to be. I could go back and draw another camera. Since I got rid of my camera, I can no longer adjust the camera, but I can also use in the visualization palette, there's some other tools, and I'm going to use the no, that's not true, the walkthrough tool. This is the elevator mode. So under visualization, walkthrough, elevator mode, this allows me to move the set up or down like an elevator in the view. So I've just moved it down so that it's more centered, and I'm going to go ahead and save that view again. I'm just going to write over the original front perspective. And click OK, and it should tell me I already have one. Yes. Unfortunately, there's no way to sort of change and update a previously saved view. You can edit the view, and you can change a lot of things about it, but you can't, ironically, edit the actual view. And so the easiest way to do that is just to record over it, basically. So the final thing we're going to do here in part 1 of this project is to actually make this look like a white model. You remember I said that that's basically what this was. So I'm going to go to RenderWorks Style. And there's a RenderWorks style called Render Style White Model. Yours may be down here at the bottom of the list. But if you select that, it will create a really ugly white model with all of these black lines. Why they have the black lines, I don't know. But now that I've done that once, it has put that render style into my resource manager, Render Style White Model, and I could edit it and get rid of the black lines. So I'm going to right click on it and edit, and tell it, I'm going to go to edges and say, no thank you, no edges please. I click OK, and now it's going to re-render, and it will look much better without the black lines. It's a little hard to read though, and that's because there is currently no lighting source in the model. Now, we haven't talked about this before, but let me talk about lighting sources. You might say, but Bert, there must be some lighting source in there because I can see it. And I will say, yes, that's the fake lighting source. So RenderWorks has a built-in sort of all-over lighting source that's the fake source if there's no other source. So if you don't have any lighting source in the document, the program has enough sense to know that you would like to be able to see anyway, and so it creates this sort of overall fake lighting. So that you can see something, but it's not particularly useful or attractive. So in order to make this look better, we're going to insert an actual source. And since this is just a white bottle, I'm not trying to make anything look realistic here. I'm just going to put in a sun. Over here in the corner, it always inserts facing to the right for whatever reason. So we're going to change that by making the azimuth 45 rather than -45. Then if we go back to front perspective and re-render in RenderWorks style. Now I realize that some of you may not be able to do the actual rendering because of your computer, so if you can't create the white model, if you have to leave it in OpenGL, then that's fine. One of the prices we have to pay for the pandemic semester. So you'll see that this looks much better now that it has an actual light source. And while we're talking about white models and early design stages, I want to show you one more thing. So I'm going to go ahead and viewport this. So I'm going to create a new sheet layer. Oh, it looks like I already have a sheet layer. Is there anything on it? Great. So there's a sheet layer there. I'm going to viewport this to the sheet layer. View, create viewport. I'm going to send it to sheet 1. I'm going to say OK. It's going to go there. We're going to update. Going to give it a second. Okay. You may remember that I said in the Castle project, I believe, that Vectorworks has a background renderer and a foreground render. And for the Castle project, I showed you a hidden line. So I'm going to turn on hidden line again and then update. And that is what hidden line will do for you. But since this is a white model, what might actually also be useful is the sketch mode, which some people find useful. So under hidden line, foreground render settings, I'm going to turn on sketch, and you'll see what it does. So this makes it sketchy, basically. Sometimes in the early stages of a design, computer models in particular look more finished than they really are, and directors or other people on the team are sometimes hesitant to ask for changes because they look at it and think it's finished and you've spent all this time on it, when ultimately you really haven't. This would have been very quick to build this if I hadn't been explaining it as we went. Now that you know how to use the tools, you could put together a room very quickly. So sometimes adding in the sketch makes it seem a little looser. And there are different styles of sketch, and you can alter them to fit your personal preference. So you can just play around with that and see if it's something that you find useful or not. You're also may say, oh no, I hate that, so I'm just going to turn that off, and I'd just rather have the white model. So just be aware that the sketch is a mode that's available and is sometimes useful early in the design process. So please save this file as Project 1, Part 1, I guess. And then for the next part, we'll save this as Part 2 so that you have both parts, so that you're not obliterating Part 1 when you work on Part 2.